Okay, thank you. All right, excuse me, everybody. We're going to get started. The March 1st, 2023 meeting of the West Springfield Planning Board is hereby called to order at 6 p.m. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, I must announce that anyone intending to tape the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide his or her name and address to the record. And we inform those present that any document that is to be considered or discussed must be made part of the record of the meeting in the original, or a copy must be submitted to the committee before there will be any discussion regarding the document. Documents include photos, plans, drawings, computer printouts, and simulation, video presentations, and the like, as well as letters and written materials. All right, we have one public hearing at 6 p.m. Cellco Partnership, DBA, Verizon Wireless, special permit. In accordance with Section 11.4 of the zoning ordinance for the construction of the Tier 4 ground mount, 106-foot tall conventional non-camouflaged wireless communications facility and the necessary ground equipment. The location of the proposed structure is adjacent to the water tower on the Golden View Drive, parcel 055-003-024 in the Residence A zoning district. You're already ready. Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Michael Fenton. I'm an attorney and shareholder at the law offices of Schatz, Schwartz, and Fenton. Our address is 1441 Main Street, Suite 1100 in Springfield. I'm here tonight on behalf of Cellco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless, and we're joined by the full complement of the Verizon Wireless team. We're joined by Brian Gaudet and representatives of All Points Technologies, Jesse Marino on behalf of Proterra Design Group, as well as Kip DeVito and Jay Latore, who are radio frequency engineers, David Vivian, who is the site acquisition specialist responsible for business terms and leasing, my colleague, attorney Stephen Sobey, and we're also joined by Simon Briganti, who is here as counsel to AT&T. This site, Mr. Chair, as you indicated, is a proposal to install a wireless tower adjacent to the existing water tank off of Golden View Drive. It is the result of a several-year effort to improve coverage, which is in very bad state in this area, the town of West Springfield. Our attempts at locating a site in this area of town and RFP attempts go back to 2015, and ultimately in 2021, an RFP was issued and Verizon was awarded the successful proposer status. A lease was signed on October 27th of last year, and before that signature by the mayor also received the unanimous consent of the town council. We received the similarly unanimous approval of the ZBA 2 nights ago, earlier this week, and in addition to the full presentation and materials that you have in your packet, which includes a 12-item agenda, including drawings and other renderings for your consideration. We also have submitted to the town a letter of support from AT&T, and as I have pointed out, Attorney Briganti is here tonight on their behalf. So with that, we would be happy to entertain any questions or go through any specific materials that you'd like us to that are a part of this presentation, but we hope for your serious and thoughtful consideration to this plan that will bring revenue to the town and improve coverage in an area that is in dire need of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allison, is there anything you'd like to add from the town? Any comments?
No, just to reiterate, the Zoning Board of Appeals did approve variances on Monday for the height and the setback of the structure, so those are now considered in compliance with zoning. So they're not an issue for your review. The DPW had submitted some comments about the site plans, mostly just sort of details that they wanted placed on the plans, and also a change to where pull box is located. I would recommend, so the applicant has seen these, I would recommend that these just become conditions if you were to approve this tonight, in addition to the standard conditions, which again I also sent out today. So there shouldn't be any surprises there, but I don't know if you wanted to address any of those particulars from the DPW, or if you're comfortable with them being conditions.
We've reviewed all the proposed conditions, and we would agree to comply with all of them. We'd be happy to have them as conditions to the permit.
Excellent.
And we did get, as was mentioned, the letter of support from AT&T. They would like to co-locate on this tower if it's approved. And we additionally received a letter from an abutter, or from a neighbor, rather, that was supportive with the hopes that it would improve their signal at their house.
Excellent. Do you want to run through any of the proposal that you have? I guess you already have it up. Looks like you're ready
Well, we
to go.
do have, if you'd like, Mr. Chair, I can call up Jesse Marino to walk through some of the high-level aspects of the zoning drawings, but we do have a very comprehensive proposal. So if there are any specific items, whether they relate to radio frequency or photographs or anything of that nature, we do have the consultants here to answer to that. But I think it would be appropriate at this time to invite Mr. Marino to come up and just walk through the drawings.
It'd be great to have a high-level view. I mean, the board, we have your document that you submitted, which is obviously very thorough, but it'd be good just for the public to even see
Sure.
the project.
Jesse?
Hi, my name is Jesse Marino. I'm with Proterra Design Group, civil engineer on the project. As you're aware, this is the site of the Golden View Drive water tank. It's a pretty small parcel. It's just under an acre. It's about 160 by 160 square feet. If you're looking at the plan on the board there behind you, you can see that the water tank's in the middle, and around the periphery, there's some room. On one corner now, in the upper right-hand corner, is T-Mobile. So we're proposing to locate the new tower and a small area for Verizon's cabinets, sort of on the northwest corner of the project. Really here, as far as the site work, it's pretty benign. Because we are reusing existing access drive, existing sort of gravel way around the facility for access. We did receive DPW's comments. We don't have any problem with those comments at all. They're fine. We've actually already made some of those improvements. So as far as them being conditions, there's no problem there. Really, to access the lay of the land there is such that the corner that best fits the tower is about 6 feet above grade from where the tank is. So we have a small set of stairs. At the top would be a pad, and some kind of refrigerator-sized Verizon equipment would be located there. As far as utilities, they're going to be underground from sources in the street. On site now, there is a meter bank. We'd have to probably bring in a new service from the transformer located down at the cul-de-sac. But again, all that would be underground and fall around the edge of the tank. This is a remotely monitored site, so after construction, only a few times a month would a tech maybe would come up there. So you don't really have a lot of concerns with access as far as traffic or any of those kind of normal site plan review hurdles. As far as stormwater, like I said, it's pretty benign. We're talking a pad size of a small deck in a house. Per discussion with DPW about a year ago, and the folks at the water department, they asked us to put some additional drainage in around the tank, which we've done. Some of their comments were related to providing some additional protection around, there's an existing drain manhole and catch basin that we're tying into. They wanted us to put a catch basin hood on that and provide some erosion control during construction so it doesn't silt up. Both of those things are fine with us. don't really have any other highlights unless you guys had some specific questions. We can run through other parts of the plan. I don't know if I can do that from here or not. Are you able to do it from here, or do you guys?
Yeah, you should. Right.
Okay. On, off, let's see here. Well, it's not just me.
You sure can.
We got a lot of brain power on it
I
here.
wish I could help
There
you,
it
but
is.
I
All
probably
there we
am worse off.
Yeah, okay. So, again, here, just to run through, this is sort of the proposal sort of on an aerial view, and you can see the existing drive here, the cul-de-sac, here's the tank, pretty small parcel. We're up in this corner here. Zooming in on the area, this is what we have. They're basically 3 pedestals which we use to support the tower, and then this is our small area here. This pad is probably, I don't know, like 10 by 12, something like that. Here are the stairs to access. Here's sort of a elevation view. At the time we prepared the plans, the tank was under construction as far as some rehabilitation. So the antennas that were up there from T-Mobile were taken down and mounted temporarily. But the way they are now is the antennas extend up to about the height of my cursor. So you can see that's what drove the height of this tower here, so these other co-locators wouldn't interfere. The rest of this is, your bylaw is very specific on providing a lot of tower profiles from different vantage points to see how the tower relates to the existing height of the water tank and surrounding trees. And again, this can just be used to, basically justify we need, this is a line of sight technology, so we need to have these antennas, up above the top of the tank here so they can propagate. Some of these plans just illustrate that. There's quite a few of them to meet the requirements here by. I can go through them, but they all basically show the same thing. What I think is a better thing to look at is the photo sims. I don't know if you're interested, we could show those, but
I think that'd probably be good for the public. They were helpful to me. Are you talking about where the drone is up there and then you simulated having the tower, what it would
there's
see?
a lot of text and lines here that don't really mean too much to the public. It'd probably be better to see an actual photo representation of that. Before we do that, let me just jump here to see if there's anything else that makes sense to discuss. Like I said, there's a lot of those sheets because the bylaw requires you to take them from certain angles, and there's basically the same thing around the tank, repeated several times. These are just some of the details of what the site plan would incorporate. Again, there were some stairs. The whole parcel now, the water tank parcel, is surrounded by fence. We're proposing that this fence would be the same size and kind. We probably have to take some of it down to construct, and we're going to put it back in basically the same location. That's just the detail here showing that. This is, again, some of the equipment. So basically refrigerator-sized cabinets. So it's not a big shelter or any kind of large structure like that. They're pretty small. There's just some more details of what the antennas would look like up close. What's the best way to get the...
Here, I'll pull up the photo sims.
Did you say you had the consultant here that did them? That might be best for him to...
Brian, why don't you come over? You can walk everybody through the photo sims here.
Cool.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Brian Gaudet with All Points Technology. We handled the visual assessment for this site. So I'll walk you through the package with the photo sims. What we did when we went out to the site, we flew a drone at 100 feet. That's represented the top of the tower. So as we did our reconnaissance in the field, we had a vantage point. We could see where it was and wasn't seen in the area. This first image here, this aerial view, What you see here, obviously in the center is the water tank, using that as your reference point. We've got a small dot where the tower will be located. And all this yellow surrounding here, these represent what would be predicted year-round views. So where the tower could be seen in the summertime above the trees. What's not shown on here is what we would call seasonal views. So now when the leaves are off the deciduous trees, there's some visibility through the tree line that you can see. At the time that we took these photos, you'll see was summertime. So the leaves are on. So we really evaluated the year-round views here from the surrounding areas. This is from Therese Marie Lane, which is the street just to the north of the site. So you can see here, each photo where the drone is visible, we have an arrow pointing to where the drone is, just as a marker. And the subsequent shot is the simulation of what the tower would appear to look like from that viewpoint. It's, I think as we scroll through, I'll scroll through. If there's any specific photos you have questions about, we can stop and discuss. You'll see generally the characteristics of these views are similar to what you see here, where you do see the tower. It sticks above the tree line, obviously where the trees are adjacent to the tower. But at the vantage points, due to the topography here and some of these intervening trees, you can see that while it does stick above the tree line here, it's really in line in most cases with some of the other vegetation in the area here. So I'll scroll through a little slowly here and just stop me if you have any questions.
Thank you.
This is also from Therese Marie Lane. Same street as well. This is down on Morgan at the entrance to Therese Marie Lane, so a little bit further away. This is on Morgan Road as well, to the east. This is Morgan Road. No views of the facility from here are anticipated. Now on to Pease Avenue. Same with this shot, not visible from this location. This is an intersection of Pheasants Crossing and Pease. No visibility here. This is out front in Grandview, looking up. Obviously, you can see the existing tank there today, T-Mobile's facility, which my understanding at the time that we did these simulations, we were under the impression that T-Mobile was going to be co-locating onto the tower, so that when we go to the next sim, just keep in mind that this T-Mobile equipment will remain while on the simulation. As I said, when we provided these, we had removed it, but you can see the tower there, just above the top of the tank. It's down Pease Avenue at the end of the cul-de-sac there. You cannot see the tower through the trees here. This was mislabeled Golden View. This is down on Pease to the southwest of the site. So you can see the drone there above the corner of this house. And the tower there. So just for purposes of location, the water tank would sit right about here where the mouse is. This is on Amistown Road to the northwest a little bit. It's not visible from there. So those are all the simulations that we provided. If you have any questions specifically about it or any other visibility questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Any questions? I don't have any questions. They are helpful, though. It's a nice job.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank Thank you very much. So if there's any other questions from the board, we'd be happy to answer them. We do have our radio frequency experts here if there's any questions about coverage, data, or voice. And as Brian indicated, this float was done with a drone, which is the latest technology for these types of simulations. And if the board is so inclined to grant the permit tonight, we would request a waiver from the balloon float requirement, given the public notice that has gone out several times to abutters and the fact that these simulations can now be done with this technology without the balloon.
It's reasonable. Are there any questions for the applicant? No? Bev? No? Nothing? All right. If you want, you can take a seat, and we'll bring up other members of the public. Simon, sure, come on up.
I just need to correct the record real quick. I'm not.
Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Simon Brigenti, and I'm here on behalf of T-Mobile. I'm sorry, I'm here on behalf of AT&T, and I put the original antennas up for T-Mobile back in the day. That's why I was a little confused. But I just wanted to kind of clear the record that I'm not acting as an attorney here. No, probably nobody's going to care except for me and maybe Mike. But I retired as an attorney, so I'm here as a consultant. So I don't want to be, because this is going to be online and stuff. So I'm a consultant representing T-Mobile. I've retired from being an attorney in all 3 states I've been admitted in. So I just wanted to kind of clear the record up for that if I could, and that was it.
Congratulations. Is there anybody else that would like to come up? Any questions, comments? No, nobody? No abutters? No, nothing. And we really haven't received other than one letter. That's it. Allison, do I have that correct? It's that one letter which was in favor of the project.
Yeah, technically the two, the one from former attorney Brigenti.
Okay.
From AT&T.
Well, that typically means that the public's in favor of it, because when they're not, they tend to show up and or correspond in some way. It seems that people want better cell service around here. I'm personally happy that AT&T is going to join that tower, but if it's approved. So I am kind of surprised, being that it's in such a residential area, that it is not camouflage, and I realize we're not requiring that, but I am curious, is there a reason? Is it a financial thing? Is it impede technology-wise? Is it an antenna limitation?
Based on the proximity to the tank and the existing vegetation around, we think that the proposal is an appropriate solution. We did anticipate that the board may wish to put a condition that the tower be painted. And so if that is desirous for the board, we'd be happy to entertain that condition, and we would comply with it. We actually prepared some alternative simulations, which, if you care to see them, show the brown option for the tower. And that would be an alternative for the board to consider. We don't make recommendations for color because a lot of that is in the eye of the beholder, but we have in the past agreed to painting, and the most common selections are green, brown, or, as you can see in this proposal, the galvanized steel.
So if I could add,
Please.
I didn't include it in any of the recommendations. We have at least one other tower in town that's painted, and it isn't particularly well maintained.
I was just going to say, that's the problem with painting, is that then requires maintenance.
So that painting it a color that's drastically different from the steel, it would be more obvious if the paint starts to come off of it. And also, I think you saw from the simulations, the steel kind of blends in with the sky a little bit. So
This is the brown option.
Personally speaking, I think I'm more in favor of just leaving it. What is it? Galvanized metal? I mean, what is the construction of the?
The finish is galvanized steel.
Yeah. Okay.
These are kind of the two options here that were.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
I tend to like the steel. It's easy to maintain. It seems to flow better with everything. I wouldn't want it to be painted because, as Allison pointed out, it doesn't stay maintained. But I think that galvanized steel looks kind of nice. It looks sleek.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I agree. Okay. Well, I don't have any further questions. Anybody on the board? Is there anything else you'd like to add before we close the public hearing?
Just that we would request that waiver relative to the balloon float.
Sure, that's
Thank you.
reasonable. Okay. Thank you. Do we have a motion to close?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? All right, where am I? Okay, any discussion? Any discussion? No discussion. All right,
Just whomever makes the motion, if you're so inclined, just add on to the conditions that, compliance with DPW comments.
does anybody have any objection to the waiver of the balloon flight? I think that's a much better way to approach that anyway. Yeah, please. Do we have a motion? Yeah, welcome aboard.
I move to approve the special permit for the construction of a Tier 4 ground mount, 106-foot tall lattice-style wireless communications facility and ground equipment on a Golden View Drive parcel 055-003-024 in the Residence A zoning district, finding that the proposed project will be compatible in the type and scale with adjacent land uses and with the character of the neighborhood in which it is located, will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance, will constitute no significant hazard to abutters, pedestrians, or vehicles, will constitute no nuisance by reason of excessive air, water, or noise pollution, will be in conformity with all applicable zoning requirements. The approval is subject to 5 standard conditions. Parking of maintenance vehicles within the right-of-way of Golden View Drive shall be prohibited. Any lighting shall be designed, installed, shielded, and maintained to prohibit viewing of the lighting element from and the trespass of nuisance glare on abutting properties and streets. The lot shall not be developed, regraded, or altered in any manner that will increase surface water drainage to abutting streets or properties. Erosion and sedimentation control best management practices, as described in the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook, Volume 2, shall be implemented during the construction phase of the project. All site improvements shall be installed and maintained in accordance with the approved plans and conditions associated with this approval. Any deviations from the approved plans and conditions shall require prior written approval by the permit.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Opposed? All right, I'm in favor. All right, looks like we've got a tower. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, do you require a vote on the waiver as well, or is that just incorporated into the decision?
It would just be incorporated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Acceptance of minutes. Minutes of the meeting January 18th and special meeting February 15th, 2023.
Move to approve the minutes of the meeting January 18, 2023, and special meeting February 15th, 2023.
You're going to have to do separate votes
Oh,
there.
okay.
All right.
Different people were present at each.
Right.
Okay,
Thank you, good catch.
thank you. Move
Good
to.
night.
Good night. Move to approve the minutes of January 18th, 2023.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Abstain? Opposed? All right. And next?
Move to approve the minutes of the special February 15th, 2023 Planning Board meeting as prepared.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? That's myself. All right. And let's see, any action items? Awesome.
No action items, the only remaining business is item 4D, other business, which is the country club. I'm sorry. The only remaining business is the Country Club, which is 4D other business. So the Springfield Country Club was before you a little over a year ago to seek approval for a new maintenance facility, which is located off of Piper Road. They have started construction, in particularly lot clearing, and some trees have been taken down as part of that process. It was discussed during their project review that that would be necessary for the installation of the detention basin and the new driveway into the property, but there was a condition that 25 to 30% of the mature trees had to remain. There were some concerns expressed about whether or not that condition was being met. Obviously, a percentage of trees is a bit hard to determine, at least on a property of that size with the amount of trees on it. But I reached out to Attorney Rayford Pellegrino, who had represented them at that hearing, and asked for some sort of update as to what plans they had to address the lack of visual screening now that the trees have been taken down. And I did receive 2 responses. The first one, well, they're both from VAAS Builders, who's the company working on the actual site. The first letter I received, which is directed towards the board, an explanation that the frontage of the entire property along Piper Road is 400 linear feet. And they're stating that 265 linear feet was affected by construction. As a result, we have maintained approximately 35% of the mature trees remaining along the overall work limit length. In general, a mature tree is more than 12 inches diameter at breast height. Most of the trees to the right or south side of the proposed driveway and all of the 100 linear feet of trees at the left or north end remain undisturbed. Between the 2 ends, the approved and permitted plans calls to create the proposed entry drive and lower the grade for the proposed stormwater detention system. And consequently, necessary trees were removed. And also because it's winter, obviously things look worse without leaves being on the trees. So to mitigate the effects, new trees and new screening, they were shown on the plans and they're proposed along the street per the construction plans. I followed up on this letter asking for some assurance that the new tree plantings and the screening would be installed sooner rather than later, rather than at the end of the project. It's kind of common for those things to be like the last thing that gets done. But the visual impact that is there, we kind of want to get everything up sooner. And the second letter does address that. There's limitations, obviously, with weather. You can't be planting trees right now, and you need to plant them when they're going to survive. And there's also the consideration of construction vehicles coming in and out of the site and potential damage to the root systems, which, again, they won't survive. So they responded that new trees will be planted as soon as the final grading of the detention basin and the site utilities have been brought onto the site. We anticipate this will be in mid-spring, which will better assure tree health as weather permits. The proposed screen will be installed closer to the end of the project completion schedule in late spring. This is after most construction equipment has been removed from site as part of full landscape plan to be implemented. And so in speaking with Attorney Pellegrino on the phone today, he was unable to make the meeting, and I hadn't really requested it specifically because it wasn't a lot of time to ask somebody to come. I figured if you all wanted him or someone else to represent the project to come before you, we could work on scheduling that subsequent to this. But his recommendation or suggestion was that the board kind of wait and see how things come along in the spring and then take it from there. And if there's, the first letter mentions that if you want more trees, they could potentially add those to help minimize the perceived visual impacts. But again, his suggestion is to just wait and see what they actually have planned already and see if it's adequate.
I mean, at this stage of the game, that seems pretty reasonable at this point. It's not like you could put them back, what's been removed. I am curious that I remember talking about that in detail when we approved that, that a lot of people were concerned with the aesthetic of that, not only during construction, but post-construction. How does that percentage of trees, that isn't, it's taken on the entire property? Is that what I heard?
So the condition was added during the meeting. It wasn't something that was like planned. And the way that it came out was that 25 to 30% of the mature trees along Piper Road.
I see. Yeah, I remember discussing essentially like brush and, I forget the terminology used, but like.
Like scrubby trees.
Yeah, scrub trees, exactly, right, like nothing.
Yeah.
But they do provide a barrier though, a visual barrier.
Yeah, there was a lot of discussion about the screening and they were upfront that the detention basin would the digging of that was going to disturb the root system of a
remember
lot
that.
of trees and
Yep.
damage them. So it's not necessarily a surprise that things have transpired the way that they have. I think it just wasn't in line with necessarily what was being visualized.
Are we receiving complaints? Is that what started this?
Yeah, so there's been some complaints and concerns just generally about compliance with the conditions. So that was what prompted me to reach out, and I did see it myself, and it is, I mean, it's substantially less than had been there. But putting it into perspective, 25 to 30% isn't really that much at the end of the day. So anyways, as you said, you can't put them back. I mean, once they're gone, they're gone. But that's why I was hoping, again, for the assurance that they would be planted sooner rather than later, because the sooner they can get established and grow, the quicker that this will be better. But there is also the screen, which is like a wood look solid screen that will go along the front of the property as well.
I mean, it's March 1st, so I think we benefit from that. I'm not an arborist, but I would imagine what are we talking, a couple of months before things are plantable, depending on if they're done disturbing?
Yeah, I think usually
just like-
like April is a good time of the year. I'm not an expert in it either, but spring is typically when you'd get them.
We're here, so, I mean, that's good news.
Yeah.
So could I just understand what screen means? Is screen a fence, some type of a fence and trees, or is screen just a general statement to say that
No,
we're?
it's a physical structure
Okay.
that will go up, and it's in addition to trees and shrubs that will be, or I should say, I think they were arborvitae. They weren't just shrubs. It was some evergreens that were included. It was a full landscape plan. There was a variety of different.
Yeah,
things that
I'd
would
like
be
to see
planted.
that again, prior to the planting, and make sure that they're full-size trees that go there. And I'm surprised that they didn't push the building back a little bit so that they were able to save those trees. I mean, obviously, everybody knows when they're taking trees out that there's going to be some kind of destruction to a root system. So I wish that they, rather than take down mature trees the way that they did, that they have certainly plenty of acreage there, that they could have pushed the building back a little bit and protected those trees. So, before there's a proposal for the size or whatever their plantings are going to be, I'd like to see what they're going to be ahead of time.
I'll have to take a ride by. I mean, I remember the plan. I certainly remember discussing it. I don't remember it being that close to the edge where they would have had to. Is it closer than I remember?
The detention
is.
basin is in front of it.
Yeah.
Well, in front of being between
That's
the
it.
building and the street.
I'm picturing the structure and not the detention basin, which would be closer. I see.
Yeah, so again, I mean, it was all discussed, and as I mentioned, I looked back, and it's being installed where it was approved to be
Okay.
installed, so I
Okay.
don't think that they've misstepped there. I do agree, it's unfortunate that some of the larger trees weren't able to be kept, but they're gone now.
Any other questions or comments from the board while we're talking about it beforehand? So we as a board, what do we have for options? I mean, like I think Bev's request is excellent. I mean, I would like to see it as well. Is that something that we can request before they proceed?
I mean, it was all already approved, so I can
Right.
just send you what was approved. And the planting schedule is on that, and it does list sizes. So I'll send you that. As I said, you can't really go back and require differently than that at
Right.
this point. You can ask them to work with you on something else and hope that they're cooperative, but they're really only bound by what was approved on those plans.
I know we beat that pretty severely, and I know that they had a really good understanding of what we were looking for visually, not only of the building itself, because we really went around that a lot too, but of the plants, we really did. And it was understood that I mean, I think we had good communication there all the way around. The screening, just for clarification, for my own knowledge, I thought the screening could be considered arborvitaes and trees. Is it something in addition to that? Are you talking like a fence type of screening in addition to that? I was considering in my mind arborvitaes as a screen.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, no, it's like an actual structure, I guess is the best way
Like
to
a fence? I mean, is it?
Yeah, it's like a fence, in addition to the trees and
Okay.
shrubs.
Excuse me, Al, is it a, I've
Trying to find the
walking several golf courses and where they're located in residential areas. I know sometimes they use these screens and they're like nets. That's not what their intention is, to put up a net so that the golf balls don't hit cars that are driving along Piper Road. And I say that because my car was hit by a golf ball driving on Piper Road, believe it or not. But do you know what that screen is going to look like? Is it?
Yes, I'm trying to find in the plans exactly where it is. I don't know that I'm not finding the actual, like, a rendering of it. It's shown, like a fence is shown on the plan. And I remember it was discussed at the meeting. And it's like a wood look. So they call it out as a wood screen, but it is solid.
I don't remember that, but do you? I remember arborvitaes and trees that we discussed, but, well, it's in the record, so it is what it is. Okay. Thank you for the update.
Yeah, so if you, you let me know how you want to proceed. If you want me to ask them to come in at a meeting that's convenient for everyone, or wait a couple months, see what comes up with the new plantings, per their suggestion, so that's up to you how you want to
I mean,
do it.
Bev is obviously interested in it and seeing it, and I think it's probably, if they're willing to, I mean, I realize we can't change the requirements that we had, but it's probably in their best interest and probably the town's best interest too, if we talk about it beforehand. It's way easier to just address something before things are done than it is to change things after the fact. Save them some expense if things, we politely ask them to change something, and if they agree to it.
Yeah, so I would recommend, in that case, then looking at the plans that were approved, and drawing conclusions from that, and then letting me know how you want to proceed. I did find the fence detail, so it's cedar wood is what they had called for.
I think the tricky part is the cutting portion, right? And what was removed. I mean, particularly if you're using like a percentage basis, how do you, probably every board member in their own minds, as they're discussing that during a meeting, we all probably have a unique vision of what is going to be removed and what would be required to be removed. None of us also, to my knowledge, are construction, skilled construction companies. So that does change things. I mean, if they remove more than what we were anticipating, it changes the look that you're trying to have there. Is that your concern, Bev?
Yeah,
Is that
no,
what I'm hearing?
I think as I'm recalling our discussions about this, I thought we were very specific about keeping 25 to 30% of the trees that bordered Piper Road. And not, not 25 to 35% of the land area that they were going to be using for this construction, and keep the trees to the left or the right or on the front side along the golf course. My recollection was that we were trying to protect the visual, we're trying to protect the neighbors so that they weren't looking at the backside of a maintenance building.
Yeah, and I think that's understood, and their response is addressing the linear feet along Piper Road. It's not, it's one enormous parcel, so you wouldn't be able to account for everything
Right.
beyond that point. So their response is that they have left approximately 35% of that linear frontage untouched, so.
That's a tricky thing. There's probably something to learn here for us on the board too, in improving using
Yeah.
a means like that. I don't know how we would do it differently. I can't think of anything right now, but when you're digging a retention basin or anything like that, you're going to damage root structures. There's no question about it. And I don't know how we would forecast what that's going to be, but that's definitely something we should take into account in the future.
Well, the landscape architect, he explained all of that at the meeting. Like,
They have an idea
They were
that-
honest about, like, this is necessary because it's going to damage the root structures, just the way that they had it laid out. And I think it was even questioned why the detention basin was placed where it was, and I don't remember the specifics of that, but I'm sure it's in the minutes. But I think probably the more important thing is the level of specificity. I don't know that percentages when it comes to trees is going to work very well.
How to do that, right, exactly.
And also, if they're in the future and it's come up with subdivisions, going on the site and actually looking at what's there, and you could mark trees that you don't want taken down. So that's sort of like the most extensive thing that you can do, most time consuming, but it's an option that you do have.
Right, if you have a 100-year tree and you just don't want to see that one gone,
Yeah, there were
could
some,
flag it.
there were some extremely large trees that were taken down that I'm sure if you had walked the site, probably you would have flagged.
Okay, well, lesson learned. We really went round and round on that project, and I didn't get the impression with the applicant in the meeting that they were, I got the impression they wanted it to look nice and they cared about the project, and I didn't feel like we were being, bamboozled in any way whatsoever. So I think I think and I hope that they're doing the best they can to make it look nice, knowing that everybody's watching. That's a very public area, obviously. Do you have a request that you'd like to see?
Well, I think, again, it goes back to, I'd like to get at least some kind of an idea of the size of the plantings that they're going to put in there and what the overall site will look like once it's completed.
That's what we have in the, we would have record of that actually already.
Yeah, there's a full landscape plan with a planting schedule. So, it's harder for me to do it on here.
Probably doesn't have to be done tonight, too. If you want to email it to us so we could review it, because we don't really have
That'd
a
be
means to review it right now anyway.
Yeah.
If that's easier for you.
Yeah, and I will do that, for sure.
Okay. Well, thank you, Allison. Appreciate it. All right, and that does it for our new old business.
Move to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Good night, West Springfield.